was the music of Justin Ridgway, the outro music playing as an intro of Justin
That's how
Ridgway.
we do it here.
We do outros.
We begin at the end.
That's right. We begin at the end here of the Propaganda Report podcast. I'm Brad Binkley, joined here by Ian Covell. We're going to be talking tonight about, obviously, the passing of the Pope, how he really died. Because people don't know how he really died. They have speculation, but it's very obvious how he really died, and we will talk about that, as well as a couple of other things, like what dark woke is, which is a term that emerged recently, and many other interesting things. And before the show, Ian and I were doing what we always do. We were talking about retards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's something Ian's very passionate about.
Well, it started with talking about autism and
RFK Jr. and all
RFK Jr. and stuff. And, Brad, and we just realized that there were too many words for retards. We just used to just call them all retards, and that was fine.
I'm OCD. I'm a retard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
And you can have retarded moments too.
I have many of them, and I strive to have more.
I love being retarded.
I can't. That was either beautiful acting or you actually do. You actually genuine, because I feel like you got a little chubby a little bit there. The way that you, oh God, fucking love me.
Fucking love.
Oh, God, mother effer. The reason we were talking about that is because of RFK Jr. and you guys have all seen the news about all of that now. It's like,
if I send you a text, of a picture that I made, can you put it up on the screen?
I can hold my phone. Yeah, I can put it up on.
Okay.
It's not a picture of something between your legs, is it? Is that not?
No.
It's not what you're going to send me right now? Which Ian did get one time after a show.
Josh posted something in the chat there.
Oh, we got a chat from Josh?
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that prophecy, actually.
Yeah.
Josh, do you want to come and join us here? I'll send you the link, Josh. You want to join us? But I have that to talk about the Pope, about this prophecy.
Yeah, you just send that text there.
All right, hold on one second, guys.
New movie coming out.
All this administrative stuff that I should do before the show, I'm going to do right now. And we're going to get Josh in here. All right. So, yeah, Ian and I were talking about that because of RFK. And, I brought it up because I heard what RFK said, and they're never going to go on a date. They're never going to be able to go to the bathroom themselves. It's just a bunch of stuff, and it's like...
He's talking about those kind.
They're never going to pay taxes. I'm like, sign me up for that autism. Yeah. I'd love to have that autism.
Not that kind. I don't want that kind.
But the reason it was interesting to me is because autism... So I should preface this because I don't want to be insensitive. I was diagnosed with OCD when I was in college,
and don't want to be insensitive.
And there was a time period where there were movies where the main character had OCD. I always get Jack Nicholas and Nicholson, the actor and the golfer, confused. I don't know which is which, but the actor played that character in a movie that was a very good movie. And then there was the Nicolas Cage movie, Matchstick Man, which is a great movie if you've never seen Matchstick Man, where the con artist had OCD, and people kind of back in my day would be like, oh my gosh, I scratched my left leg and I felt like I also had to scratch my right leg, so I think I'm a little OCD. And I would always be like, well, do you ever feel like if you scratch your left leg and then if you don't scratch your right leg, that your entire family will die? And they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, then you don't have OCD, because that's the extremeness of OCD. And it felt like kind of a quirky personality trait that a lot of people adopted because they saw people on TV or movies that they liked. And I feel like that is what autism is now. Not saying that people aren't naturally diagnosed with autism, but I feel like the definition of it has changed. So the autism that I knew when I was in college was every time a guy in my class had a question, he would just raise his hand and go, he would scream very loudly. And I'm not trying to make fun of him. I'm not trying to make fun of him, but
I know.
And there's a stand-up comedian that I know, Jerry. This guy named Jerry. You've seen him, Ian. I don't know if you remember him, but I love Jerry. Jerry's a great guy, and every time I see him, he starts flying around the room like he's a bird, and he gives me a hug because he remembers that I'm in Astronaut University every single time. And he remembers, strangely, he always brings up, he's like, a girl you dated, which I dated her like 15 years ago. He always reminds me that she looks like his favorite porn star. And I'm like, I know, you've told me that for 15 years, Jerry. I know, but Jerry has done stand-up for 15 years, probably longer, actually. Probably started before I did. And he doesn't know that he's laughed at on stage, and I feel bad sometimes, but he's laughed at on stage because people don't know what he's talking about. And there's people who think, people have come up to me and said, is he a Andy Kaufman type person? Is he doing, art? And I'm like, no, I was like, that's Jerry. And I got to tell you, I admire Jerry's persistence and his ability to try stuff. And sometimes he does do well. But so that is what I understood autism to be. And of course, what is the definition of anything? But as I grew older, it became that spectrum of things. And I met people who were autistic, and I'm like, you're like the smartest person I've ever met. You make like 3 times as much money as me, and I admire everything that you do. And so it just became confusing what it is and what it isn't, and what the mental disorder is. Because some of the people who are have been diagnosed with this, I'm like, wow, this is beneficial to them, maybe. Because they're doing very, very well. And so I think and you pointed out with RFK Jr. was talking about a very specific type of autism, I guess.
He was talking about very specific types.
And that wasn't kind of delineated in all the conversation about all of that, which I think is an injustice.
It is. He was talking about severe cases.
What the guy in my college class, I think that type of severe case, maybe even
people
more
who
than
wouldn't
that.
even be able to be in your college class.
And that is why they need to define these things better, so people know what they are. When they hear that word, when you have such a broad definition of things, how can anybody react to it or understand it when it's, again, the spectrum definition? When it's such a wide spectrum,
so people are getting mad because he said this, and they're saying, "Well, that's not true. People with autism live normal lives, just like you and I. They're CEOs of banks."
Well, they are. They are. Michael says, "Stop jumping to conclusions." Are we jumping to conclusions here? Is that us, Nicholas? If I am, tell me. I'm just. Yeah, they are CEOs of banks based on the definition. You're a linguistics major from FSU.
Well, I was an English major, but go ahead.
Just you're a linguistics major.
I'm a linguistics major. Fine,
English
fine.
major. You're very, very smart. You're very well studied in those subjects that I'm not. It's language can be manipulated to do things that those in power want to do, to shape things in a certain way. And I always kind of harp on it's a leftover from my law school days. Like, I need a concrete definition so that I understand things, so that I know what I'm talking about. And it's like the media and everything, they do the opposite of that so that they can flexibly apply terms to different things. And when I'm joking around about this, I don't intend to make fun of people who have autism. Like I said, I was diagnosed with OCD when I was 20 years old. I'm a weirdo, dude.
I also think to be fair to people who like to fuck around and make jokes, there's just a total difference between when you're fucking around and making jokes and when I'm actually interacting with a human in front of me. It's a very, very big difference.
Totally. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right. And and RFK Jr. had a purpose for that. He didn't say that flippantly. This is all public relations strategy. You got a communications person, a chief communications person, and they're all like strategically saying, here's what you should say to try and get this reaction. So he probably was expecting this type of reaction, maybe to put the focus on the subject.
Yeah.
Maybe not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But autistic children at play signs, I've been seeing that. And it's like every time I drive by, it's just kid doing like the most unbelievable math I've ever seen in his yard. Talking economics right there. And I'm like, God, he's schooling the blind child at play. I'm just like, my goodness, what's
for
going on?
a long time it was deaf kid at play.
Like never saw me
Autistic kid at
coming.
play.
You know,
I haven't seen them at play. I haven't seen any of the kids. I haven't seen regular kids at play.
and there's never any kid at play
Yeah.
around that sign. It's like what? I guess somebody already got to him.
Yeah. That's like exactly.
like an advertisement.
If I'm a kidnapper, I'm gonna hang out right by those signs. I'm gonna find out where those signs are.
I'm stealing the autistic kid because he's going to do my taxes for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be insensitive. I'm just mocking the definitional things of it. Not like we're all fucking weirdos. Like I wish I had the and I shouldn't say that flippantly because I used to make fun of people who said that about OCD. So I don't mean to do that. But like I just wish they would kind of pin it down and make it easier for people to understand who aren't involved in that. And I think they intentionally don't. So moving on from that subject on to this. What's up, Forrest Mommy? We're going to talk about, the subject that everybody's been talking about the past couple of days. This is the Pope died. And you're Catholic, Ian, so I know you probably had a really tough couple of days.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Like like Ian before the show used to always have his Pope outfit on. I'd be like, Ian, you can't wear your Pope outfit. I know you admire him and you love him, but you cannot wear your Pope outfit, right? And, he'd change and we'd start. That's why we're late all the time, is getting Ian out of that Pope outfit.
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot to get in.
It's a lot to put on, And you got the stuff on your head, the ashes and whatnot. But the Pope did die, and I've told you guys I don't celebrate anybody's death, even the people that I dislike strongly. There's people who care about them who are sad. And so it's those people who I feel for in times like this. I know a lot of people believe the Pope to be more of a communistic Pope, and I wouldn't disagree about that. He did call anti-vaxxers a plague at one point. Not cool, but also just because somebody said that doesn't mean I wish ill upon them.
Right.
I actually wish, that's one of those things where it's like pray for them. Pray for unity. Pray for them to stop doing that. I also think it's very hard to become the Pope without being controlled. But here's what happened. So the Pope was killed. This is my opinion. Pope was killed. Not by J.D. Vance, like people say. But I think the Pope was actually killed, and here's my reasoning on that. The Pope almost died like 3 weeks ago, in the end of March. Mm-hmm. He was in the hospital for 5 weeks for double pneumonia, which means you have pneumonia in both of your lungs. He's 88 years old. Mm-hmm. He was considered to be in critical care, which is ICU. Of course, he's got like a great hospital. He's probably he's not in the ICU at Emory, surrounded by a bunch of people on stretchers. He's by himself. But they were giving him oxygen from a ventilator. A non-invasive ventilator, by the way, which a lot of people during COVID might have liked so they didn't get intubated and die, which is very hard to get off of an actual. So they gave him that external one, because they learned from COVID. And the doctors at one point were going to stop the treatment because they believed there was nothing that they could do. Mm-hmm. And what I think happened at this point was the Pope's handlers came up to them because you can't just pick a new Pope overnight. It takes a pretty long time. I think they came up to him and they said, "It sure be a shame for you, doctor, if we didn't have a Pope for Easter."
Hey, doctor.
Yeah, doc, maybe we should let him go, right? That'd be a shame, doctor.
It'd be a shame, for something to happen to your beautiful family.
Easter Bunny might bring your wife a slit throat's all I'm saying. And so the doctor said, okay, let him go. And then they took the Pope back, and, you hadn't really heard from him since. It's only been a couple weeks ago. Then all of a sudden, they're parading him around like Weekend at Bernie's on Easter. And they're doing this despite the fact that these doctors said, you need to rest for 2 months to recover from this illness that we right now don't believe you're actually going. We think you're going to die. So you need to spend 2 months resting. If you do anything other than that, you're going to die. And his handlers are like, yeah. All right, Mr. Pope, get in the Pope mobile. Shake J.D. Vance's hand.
Just one little meet and greet.
They killed him.
One little meet and greet.
Absolutely. Just a couple meet and greets speaking in front of people in the Pope mobile. The guy was on the brink of death. And I'm not saying people can't fight back from that, but by all accounts of what they described his illness to be, he should not have been exerting the type of energy. They were propping him up, and they say he just had a hunger for work, and he wanted to do it. Bullshit. The guy, if you see the picture of him and J.D. Vance, it reminds me of every picture you see of Jimmy Carter at his 100th birthday party, of a smiling person with someone saying, "Kill me! Kill me, please!" Because
that last image of him was him.
Exactly, dude. And they kept Jimmy Carter alive to accomplish one more final purpose, which was be a white dude for Harris, because his kids were like, he's excited to vote for Kamala. And they had him vote, and then a month later, on the time of the year when there's the least amount of news, so they could fill the week between Christmas and New Year's, he died. And this is what they did with the Pope. They had him serve his final purpose of Easter, and one of two things happened. He either survived, and then they had J.D. Vance come put a My Pillow over his face, kill him, or they killed him, they say he died of a stroke and a heart attack, which obviously, if he died of a stroke and a heart attack, it's because of the overexertion that they forced him to do. His handlers fucking killed him to get that Easter message out that they wanted to get. And that is murder, in my opinion. And it's not even wrong. There's quotes of people saying that the doctors told him not to move for 2 months, to stay behind doors, but he was so fierce in his work ethic. Bullshit. He wasn't. He didn't know what the fuck was going on. You can tell by those pictures. They killed him. They forced him to go out, and they fucking let me get in I'm about to die. I better go for one last ride in the fucking Pope mobile. Okay, that wasn't his idea. The dude wasn't. Have you seen the picture of him in Vance?
No, I don't think I did.
Let me find it.
Man, no, I didn't. I saw, not a full picture. It didn't give a good perspective.
Well, you couldn't see. He didn't have his pants on, so I don't think they showed.
Yeah, that's the one I heard about.
Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here's a couple of them here. Let's look at this one. I don't even know how you, like, the headline of this is like, J.D. Vance meets with the Pope. And he does appear to be breathing here. And okay, so we do have a guest. I'm sorry, I got all kind of worked up. I didn't see that. Let me get our guest in here, because he's going to probably know more about the subject of the popes. What is that theory of the popes? It's like, where's the tabs?
The Saint Malachi prophecy.
Yes, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me get. Can you see?
Yeah, I can see.
Oh, you see that photo there? That's the Pope. That's that's actually one of the better photos of him. That's after all the adrenaline that they pumped into him. Here we have our guest here.
Great.
Is this? Wait, am I looking right now at Arrow?
Vigilante known as Arrow.
Okay, so we have now. I did not expect that we were going to get the vigilante known as the Green Arrow on the show today. Wow.
Ian, Brad, how are you?
We're good. We're good. We're talking about the death of the Pope. I think the Pope was. I think, I would call this just manslaughter, because I think they knew he was going to die. I think they didn't care. I think they said, fill him up with adrenaline, keep him alive. We need a Pope on Easter. Then afterwards, either he's going to die from the activities we forced him to do, or we're going to put a My Pillow over his face. What do you think, Green Arrow?
We might not be too wrong on that theory. I'm here at the Vatican now.
What have you discovered? What have you found?
We've discovered some things that Ian won't admit to, like there's a secret society, a CIA, if you will, of the Vatican City.
And
why? I told you I don't know anything about it.
Is he part of this?
He's been hounding me about this all day.
The Green Arrow?
Like I have some kind of insider knowledge about a secret.
Wait a minute, you're friends with the Green Arrow, Ian?
Yeah, yes.
So because every Catholic has insider knowledge is what you're implying.
Well, I think Ian Covell might have more going on than meets the eye.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
especially when it comes to the Catholics.
Yeah, there's a lot of Catholics in the country, guys. Do you think they'll lose the Lazarus pit on him? Is what Zach wants to know. Bring him back to life. Are we going to bring him back to life, Green Arrow?
Well, there is the Saint Malachi theory. Some people think because the St. Francis's middle name was Patricius,
I don't know what you said.
but Peter the Rome,
Pedo the Rome?
Peter the Romanus.
Make sure you
supposed to be
differentiate. Like, if you say that, make sure you're saying Peter and not Pedo the Rome.
Pedo the Rome. Pedo the Rome I just brought in recently.
That's not a good thing, Mr. Green Arrow.
To bring him to justice isn't a good thing.
Well, Oliver, it is. Papa Francisco says Michael. So let's pull up this article here, because I thought this was interesting too. I don't really buy into the prophecy here. Although, what's the guy's name who took people to the Lazarus pit?
Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul. That's right, Ra's al Ghul. Your arch nemesis. Is that right, Green Arrow?
Yeah, my arch nemesis.
He really.
Wait, Green Arrow and
Killed a lot of people in my family, depending on, which reality we're in.
I'm just so surprised.
Kind of like just like a
nerd
like a-
with a bow and
Look,
arrow.
they didn't just
Rich
retcon
kid.
Batman stories for my show, okay?
That's what I think they did. Actually.
I've got good things going on too.
I did not expect the Green Arrow to be here this evening.
Kind of like Batman without the
Celestine the Second.
without the class.
yeah.
What do you mean without?
It's
the
like
class?
Batman with plus a lot of fag.
Have you ever seen my workout room?
Yeah. I saw one
Yeah.
episode of the
We
show, maybe two.
We saw the butt sex,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So here's the article. According to a 900-year-old book in the Vatican, Judgment Day may be upon us soon, and Pope Francis might be the last leader of the church. And so this is before he
They've got
died.
it wrong. It's Peter the Romanus, the Roman.
All right. Well, let's see what
Peter
this
the
guy has
Romanus,
to say.
Ra's al Ghul.
You
All
can
right,
correct
let's see
us
what this guy
along
has
the
to
way,
say. Yeah.
Arrow. The health of Pope Francis has led to renewed interest in a 900-year-old book known as The Prophecy of the Popes, which has a Wikipedia page, so it must be, something. And concerning, all right, which claims to predict the year of Judgment Day. For those of you who need brushing up on your scripture, and that would be me, Judgment Day, also known as the final judgment, thank you, or the second coming of Jesus Christ, is the day that Jesus returns to earth to judge humanity and destroy heaven and earth. Essentially, the day will find out who will be saved and who will be damned. Just like Christmas. It's like, do you get presents or do you get coal in your
So
stocking?
get your shit straight.
According to a 12th century book called book credited to Irish Bishop Saint Malachi. Thank you. It is going to take place in 2027. So this is, again, this is before he died. So this is a speculation here.
So then there's one more pope, Peter the Roman.
Well, the Nostradamus prediction was that there would be a pope of color. So a lot of people are pointing to that black guy.
that
That
African
everybody,
dude?
yeah.
Is his name Peter?
I don't know what his
No.
name is. Papa
he Roman?
Francisco, says Michael there. And it goes on to say, located in the Vatican secret archive. See, this is a problem with
See,
me.
the Vatican secret archives, which Ian won't admit to existing.
Ian's name shows up in the secret archive files. It's the equivalent of the Epstein files over there in the Vatican. And it was located in the Vatican secret archives and discovered in 1950. So I don't understand that sentence. The secret archives were discovered in 1950, so that means they've been there for a long time. So people were in the Vatican. They said, "Oh my gosh, what is this door on the floor?"
They've
I
got it all
don't know
on.
what that means.
They've got a CIA. It's called the Entity.
Well, is that really what it's called?
You don't believe me? You want to fact check me, Brad?
No, don't be like the liberal media. I'm just asking you if that's what it's literally called. Arrow, you're
Look,
using
you don't
it.
ever come to my nightclub prison anymore.
You need to stop revealing our relationship prior to this, Arrow. Oliver.
Don't say my. I don't know who that is.
Of course you don't.
I was on an island.
Nate says Elseworld Pope. Yeah, you know anything about an Elseworld Pope?
It could be the Antichrist.
Yeah,
What's
you're-
Elseworld?
Elseworld is
Elseworld.
a television series that's terrible about Marvel. It's called Elseworlds, which means what happens if like
DC Elseworlds. It's
DC.
not Marvel.
Is it a
Sorry,
cartoon?
thank you.
And it started out as comic books, not a television.
It's like, what if the British girl
yeah.
it's really
Yeah,
terrible.
well, Marvel used to have just the what ifs, right? They used
It's
to-
kinda like
Marvel's
that.
got what
Yeah.
if.
They should just do really, really extreme ones, like what if Captain America was a flaming bottom homosexual? Who only saved people from the crosswalk, from getting hit by hit and run drivers at the crosswalk in Atlanta. That's all he did. He just saved people from that. As Ian used a, what does that
The-
say,
the
Ian? Do you know that
chronovisor?
term? Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't let you use it to see the past anymore. They
It's
just
unfortunate.
they just set it up on like a Vatican balcony, and you can put a quarter in it and check out the,
Cool. Well, you put
check
you
out the
put like a
scenery.
if you put like a silver like $1,000
Yeah.
bill and maybe
No, the
it's,
chronovisor is what they apparently they can use to go back and actually watch the crucifixion. They can
Right.
watch things in the past. You can't
So-
really time
Then
travel
how
with
else
it.
would you
It's my
know this
understanding of it.
information, Ian, unless you worked for the entity? Which is why he's
That's-
infiltrated your propaganda.
But that's
shit.
the real thing, though, right? That
Well, that's what they claim. They claim this thing exists. I have not seen it. I have not been to the Vatican
yeah, it's interesting.
library.
Don't you understand, Binkley? You're getting played by Covell. He's been working for the Vatican all along.
Look, Oliver, excuse me, Green Arrow. We need you to trust a little bit on this show. We've vetted each other here, okay? We don't want to send you back to the island and turn you into the Spectre prematurely. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Double agent, says Groby. Double agent. Spider-Man, the only stops people from doing burnouts or rainbow. Yeah, exactly. He's a Spider-Man of the crosswalks. The reason I bring that up is because there's been a number of stories about hit and runs that happen at the gay crosswalk in
Are they by
Atlanta.
Tesla drivers?
Maybe that might be what the claim is, but there is a giant gay crosswalk in Atlanta. For those of you who aren't from Atlanta, in Midtown, which is very, very
You're
gay.
only allowed to use it if you're gay. If you're not gay,
Right, you have to
go
butt
down the next
fuck your way
block.
across that
You have to
crosswalk.
go down the next block.
Yeah, you got to
butt
bottom or
fuck
top your way,
across
and you
this
don't even
one.
get to choose. It's whoever's just next to you. It's like, all right, let's do this,
Yeah.
and but the alpha gets the top, and
Every
I
time
might-
I walk across it, I'm like, ugh, gross, gross. I'm just kidding.
no, it's great. It's covered in semen, and my thought was like, there's not like a hetero crosswalk with
All of
just
them are.
vaginas everywhere. Right, all the other ones are.
All the other ones are hetero.
But the article is about the targeting of people in this great gay crosswalk, which I don't even know if that was confirmed that people were targeting gay people. It's just a very busy part of town. But also, if you don't want that to happen, maybe don't identify where everybody is crossing the street as gay with a rainbow flag. Maybe get rid of the rainbow flag if you don't want it to be targeted. But it's kind of a weird thing where it's like, I'm going to drive to 10th Street and take out some gay. Like you just, so the assumptions present in this story is that somebody who knows there's a gay crosswalk drives over to 10th Street in Piedmont, assuming that only gay people ever cross this crosswalk.
They should have like a gay kid at play sign.
Gay, right, yes. Gay kid. Gay kid crossing.
Gay kid crossing, gay kid at play.
And the sign is just like a bent over with his pants down, and there's like a big black D. Michael says it is at Piedmont and 12th. Yes, it's right around. It's right there by Piedmont Park. So you can go to Piedmont Park and get murdered, or you can do the gay crosswalk, and which I'm sure that's something Green Arrow knows a little bit
Look,
about.
my best friend, Mr. Terrific, is gay.
We know it is.
Yeah, well,
Let's get back to this prophecy, Green Arrow.
that's
So-
terrific.
The 88-year-old died of died of a stroke. They said, but I consider it to be murder or manslaughter. What happened to him? Says the book contains Latin phrases in 112 mysterious sections which purport to predict Catholic popes, beginning with Celestines II, the church's up to the church's current leader. One passage attributed to whoever says the axle of basically. To sum up, because I'm not going to read all this stuff, has all these weird words.
Well, you can't speak Latin.
No, I can't
Brad.
speak Latin. It comes up to where some people have determined that this pope is the final pope
The
based
next
on this
one, the
prophecy.
one coming up.
Do what?
The one coming up.
The one, so it's not this one. It's the next.
Some
pope
people
is the final
argue
pope.
that it's this one because of Pope Benedict's middle name.
Okay, and there's also many people who say that some of these prophecies were true up into the 1500s, and then they stopped being true, so they write them off as phonies. And I am probably going to go with that theory, in my opinion, until people start disappearing. And
There's a lot of things in the world we can't explain, Brad.
that's always been the case, though. I think every generation that's ever existed has always thought they were the last generation. You know?
Yeah, I
Right?
think. I think the day after we came into existence, we thought this was going to end. There's at least one person who was like, "This can't last."
Right when they were born, they're like, God, this is the worst thing. Why did I
It's too
come out of
much.
that womb?
Ugh,
Yeah, that's why I backed out. I was a breech baby. So I
were
was
you really?
very reluctant.
fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, it was 3% of the population, dude. I am truly in the minority. More so than,
2016 was the worst year. There's no way 2017 could get any worse.
wait, what? It's 2025.
You remember those ads, though?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I do. They always prophesize the worst, and that's what we live in right now. We live in this reality where everything is a giant PR stunt. Which I'm going to play some clips here in a minute that kind of illustrate that in our politics, where everybody, the politicians that get the most attention and organize the most people, are the ones that are the best at doing grand PR stunts that are just totally fabric. I mean, it's not reality. It's a giant circus, and we're incentivizing clowns to become our leaders.
Clown.
You know, like Jasmine Crockett, person of color, right? Nancy Mace,
Person of non-color.
person of non-color who is, look, nothing. Nancy, every time Nancy Mace speaks, her beautiful tits have less power over me. Okay, because she's so obnoxious and awful. Nancy Mace is a walking Me Too. Trump did not endorse Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace said that January 6th was that
Was it?
there was an insurrection by Trump. She was on the side of MSNBC. After it happened, then she was running for re-election in South Carolina, and Trump endorsed her opponent. And so she went and stood out in front of Trump Towers and took a video of herself and made it look like, in the video, by what she said, I don't remember it exactly, but that's what I thought it was. Like Trump endorsed her, and here she is after meeting with Trump at Trump Tower, to the point where Trump shared it and said, the Nancy Mace is lying. She's standing in front of Trump Tower. I never endorsed her. She's off. He does not like her. And she goes on to the floor of Congress and accuses specifically named people, an ex-boyfriend and his buddies, of gang raping people for 10 years on a hidden camera. And the Attorney General of South Carolina, who she happens to most likely, because she's going to run for governor of South Carolina, is what is believed, that would be her opponent. She accuses him of covering it up. And she pretends to be the Davy Crockett of the women's bathroom, and there's never been a photo, a video of her taken where her tits aren't pumped. She could be like, I'm saving this baby from dying over here, and you could be like, but I can't see it. Oh, wait, is it that fuzzy thing in the background over your giant tits that you push? I never thought I'd be like, less tits, please, bitch. Until Nancy Mace. I can't stand her. And I make fun of her on X. And every now and then I'll get a comment that's like, oh, what do you like the trans? I'm like, no, dude. No. Can you not differentiate? You don't have to love every Republican and hate every other thing, okay? You can see that Nancy Mace is a fucking grifting bitch who has gotten by on her titties her entire life. Don't get me wrong. I'd look at them. I'd fucking look at them, dude. Is that, you know?
Would you?
Only if the
That's
Pope,
disgraceful.
only if the
That's
Pope would forgive me for looking at them.
That's a
Ian,
good
have you ever
segue.
been to confessional?
Have I been to a confession?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to confession.
Tell us about it.
Well,
What'd
I'll
you
tell
say?
you, it's a lot better to go. It's a lot better to go to a confessional and do it than what they used to do
Do it. What do you mean? Like have sex?
originally.
Oh, what they do
like
originally?
in,
Sorry.
in the ancient Christian church, you would confess in front of everybody. You,
Oh God, that'd be really awful.
yeah.
Yeah. So what did you confess?
It's a lot of stuff.
I just always
Just a bunch
feel
of stuff, dude.
I feel like the confessional is the best place to put, especially at a very popular church, is the best place to put an undercover CIA pope.
There's not as much, whatever. I grew up as a Catholic,
Or
so
even
none
as
of
the
us-
co-host to your show.
yeah.
Look, I know you don't trust anybody, Oliver. I know. Or excuse me, Green Arrow. I know you don't trust everybody. But I've always like wanted to go to confessional just to see what it's like. Control Alt. What does that say? Dig says, how much of those do you own if the silicone was paid for?
Oh.
Right. She probably did get those taxpayer-funded titties.
Yeah.
She's crazier than Britney Spears, and that's the problem, you know. Just like Britney Spears, there's going to be some
God,
poor
Britney
schlup
Spears
who's
and
going to
that
date
knife
her.
routine. You're just like,
That's taxpayer money well spent, if you ask me.
Very, is that right? I'm going to show you what Nancy Mace has been getting involved in, which illustrates the reality we live in of this public relations stunt reality. Everybody's taking cameras, trying to bait people into. Everybody's like, I'm going to have my camera out, and I'm going to try and provoke people into making me look like a victim on camera so that I can then go to my Indivisible group or go to my Sean Hannity and get donations based on I'm standing up to bullies. And if I like the term hold the line.
yeah.
Look, that was a term. A friend of mine from Australia, Stella, wrote a song that used "Hold the Line" as it was a great song a few years back, and at that time it was perfect. Now you have all these people in politics who co-opt it, and they pretend that holding the line is using your big tits and fame to abuse a disturbed gay person inside of a like a not a convenience store, but like a pharmacy or something, like Nancy Mace recently did.
Oh, she did that recently.
Yeah, she did that a couple days ago.
She should have a TV show like Cops, where she
That's what
hunts
she.
down,
And Nancy Mace.
hunts down trans people.
Oh my God, dude!
Using the
She should be the
bathrooms.
trans Christy
I'd
Nome.
watch it all the time.
The trans Christy Nome, dude. She smashes their heads with her breast like she's the kingpin.
Listen,
I was on Buford Highway one time, and this was not a trans thing. I was on Buford Highway one time in one of those, those really awesome Korean donut shops, the pastry shop, the coffee shops. You ever been in them?
I stay away
Anyways.
from Buford Highway.
So I'm in there
Yes.
using the bathroom. I'm standing there using the urinal, and all of a sudden, this little Asian chick walks in and starts washing her hands, and I freaked out for a second. And for a second, I was like, "Am I in the girls' bathroom? No, I'm using the urinal. What's
Right.
going on?" And she just kind of looked at me like I was the one for being weird and walked out. And then I thought, I kept thinking to myself, is that normal? Is that part of Korean culture? Do they just go in and out of each other's bathrooms? I don't know, dude. Blew my mind. Not
Yeah.
comfortable with it. Tell you
Did
that.
you
Wait, there's urinals in the women's room now?
Green Arrow, I think you missed. He was in the men's room, and because it's always been a thing that, at baseball games, you'd see a woman walk into the men's bathroom because they knew they could get away, especially if they're good looking,
Right.
and they get away with it. Which I got to tell you, you walk into the women's bathroom with your penis out, never
No matter
works
how
the same
good-looking
way.
you are.
It doesn't work at all.
No matter how good looking you are.
No. Michael says, so you think the church valued a Catholic tradition over the Pope's death? I think that is one possibility of it. Yes, definitely. I think
So you
they
honestly believe that the Pope was murdered?
well, so I'm not saying murdered. I'm saying that it would be considered homicide. Because they were told. I mean, he almost died. He was
What
on the
if he
brink of death.
insisted on these things, though?
The guy could not. The guy was have you been around somebody who's been on the brink of death to where the doctors say there's nothing else we can do? And if you have, that person is not saying, I insist on going around and exerting all kind of.
Do you
No,
know
he did
how many
not choose.
people I've lost, Brad?
All
Of
right,
course
all right,
I've been
Green
there.
You've
And I've
lost
seen
people
the
with
people
bullets.
that fought through and needed to get the things done that needed to be
Look,
done.
you're really making the Pope's Day yours, Oliver.
What?
You're making the Pope's Day yours. You're trying to steal the Pope's thunder.
I think you're trying to keep his
You-
thunder rolled up inside of a thunderless blanket.
You're somebody about, I don't know what that means. Most blankets, I believe, are thunderless. But the Pope, and I think you would appreciate this. If this were any other circumstance, this would be an elderly abuse problem. Is what this would be. He was
Look, elder abuse
instructed.
happened for 4 years here. You think they're going to do something about the Pope?
Well, no, they're not. They're going to cover it up. But my point is, everybody's joking about J.D. Vance, and I've joked about J.D. Vance killing the Pope and whatnot, and him dying of old age. But the fact is, this is a classic case, just like it was with Jimmy Carter, of handlers and politicians who needed this figure for a certain message, abusing dying elderly people to serve their own agenda. And that is a homicide. It is not.
J.D. Vance was a patsy. It was Deathstroke.
I don't know that they needed Deathstroke to kill him, but that is what I think. And honestly, if this were regular people, so let's imagine somebody has a father or a mother who the doctor says she needs 2 months and she needs to not move or exert herself because we are already reluctant to let her go home because we think she could die.
She wanted to make me a sandwich. I couldn't stop her.
Right, and so she got in, and all day long she made that sandwich. Yeah, right.
I couldn't stop her. She just wanted to make sandwiches for the whole family. She was like, nope, I'm just glad to be out of the hospital.
She wanted to be on her feet for 14
So we
hours
got her
that
up
day.
out of bed.
She wanted to speak to 50,000 people live. You know, you would be investigated for elderly abuse if that were any other situation.
Well, what if it was an enormous public figure that a lot of people base their realities off of?
Yeah, that's what I just said. It's a public figure. People
Not
base-
just a grandmother.
Right. That's why they get away with such things, and it kind of speaks to the point of it's the people who are put in these positions. They're the face. They're the branding.
Brad, let me ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
If
Green
you were on
Arrow.
the brink of death's door, you've been shot in the shoulders by someone, and you put your life out there to protect someone else's,
like
just to
this
find out
sounds like you.
that you
For-
needed
yeah.
to get one last message out. Wouldn't you do everything you could to get that message out?
For people who are listening, this is the Green Arrow story. He's kind of putting it on me. I don't know that. I guess if I had a chance to, I would, but I don't know how that relates to the Pope. So I want to move on to the dark woke thing because I did tease that, and I think you guys will have a lot to say about this. I noticed this on the New York Times earlier. The intentional racism of progressives is often hilarious, and this to me fits perfectly.
Wait
this
a
is-
minute.
It's the New York Times here, and the headline
Captain's
is
cat makes a good point.
what?
They needed to get the heat off the witches, not in space, so they sacrificed the Pope. There's a whole theory about how they went up there as a ceremony to Moloch.
And they were like, let's choose all these women who are woke women, like this one we're featuring here.
I was watching footage from it, and I kept hoping that the window would break.
I think a lot of people might have felt really bad about cheering for that. Did you see the video? The launch of it looked very fake, and when it came down, it like a window looked like it popped open. The whole thing just looked just ridiculous. And who cares? It's just
And they open the door, then they close it, and then they officially open the door. Did you see that one?
yeah. And Katy Perry kisses the ground, and people would credit her for kissing the ground because she came out first. And then Oprah's best friend, Gayle King, she also kisses the ground. I guess she didn't realize that Katy Perry she stole it. she jumped her, and nobody gives the black woman credit. Is what I'm saying. And so here you have the New York Times. I don't have access to the article in real time anymore because you have to like pay to read the New York Times articles.
Screenshots.
What?
Screenshots.
Strange Gods.
Screenshots.
Yes, this is a screenshot. Yes. And it says, "What is dark woke?" And I laughed immediately at this because the image you see right below that is Jasmine Crockett. What is dark woke? And then an image of Jasmine Crockett. Yeah, unintentional racism by the left. But here's what that actually means, according to this article, is basically the right has been so vulgar and inappropriate for so long. Now it's time for the left, led by Jasmine Crockett, to start getting as inappropriate as everyone else. And the article starts like this. You're going to love this. There was a time last summer. Well, the subheadline before I say that says, Democrats are trying out a new attitude. It's provocative, edgy, perilously towing the line of not being too offensive. And then it says, there was a time last summer when the Democrat Party was cool. Kamala Harris had just stepped in as the Democrat Party's nominee for president in the waning days of brat summer. She went on a popular podcast called Call Her Daddy. Tim Walz, outdoorsy drip. Tim Walz's outdoorsy drip led to a Chappelle Roan-inspired cameo trucker hat. Do you guys remember that time when Kamala Harris and the outdoorsy Tim Walz made the Democrat Party so cool?
I forgot about it. It must have been a while ago. What the fuck are they even talking about?
Isn't it great when an article just starts on a premise that's just total bullshit like that?
I love it.
To justify the total bullshit they're about to tell you next.
Okay.
What'd you say?
We'll see you, Arrow. He's got to go
say?
fight crime.
Oh, he's out of here.
He's got to go fight crime.
He was very combative, I have to say.
Yeah, well.
He'll be back.
These superhero types, man, they're fucking crazy, Brad.
I feel you're right. In him, I think he's got a complex that he's not Batman.
They all have complexes. Yes.
Right.
Batman has just, he's got his own complexes, and then all the rest of them just want to be him.
You're right. I think maybe he saw himself in Kamala Harris here, and we're criticizing him. But to start this on this idea that it was cool, I tried to go to these rallies. I've talked about this on the show a lot. And Josh, a friend of ours, who it looks a little bit like that Green Arrow, went with me. And none of it was groundswell enthusiasm because you couldn't even find out when the rallies were. It was all sent out by email. So all of this is based on that lie. And then it goes on here to say that that moment has long passed. That fake moment they started the article with has long passed. With Donald J. Trump back in the White House, the culture of dude-heavy pop podcast programming, provocative insults, and so-called masculine energy that helped him get there seems like the dominant one. And to some, the response from the left during the previous Trump era, defined by an earnest, quote, resistance, which is all fabricated, none of it's earnest, to his agenda, appears outdated and cringe. And all right, it just says, as liberals try to get their groove back, some party insiders say Democrat politicians have been encouraged to embrace a new form of combative rhetoric aimed at winning back voters who have responded to Trump's no-holds-barred version of politics. So they are trying to win back people who think Trump is funny. Right? I mean, that's what they're saying there. Okay,
Yeah.
so they're going to have to be funnier than Trump here.
Yeah.
And let's see if this is represented as the article continues here. It's an attempt to step outside the bounds of political correctness that Republicans have accused Democrats of establishing, and it requires being crass but discerning, rude but only to a point. Which I will add, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, which Elon Musk put a lot of money in recently.
Right.
2 years ago, I covered that race because they said this was the most funded race in history. Last time in 2023, also the most funded race in history. They don't have the labels there in those races, but you know who the conservative and the Democrat is?
Oh.
And there was a big article by the Democrats about how they ran all these ads that communicated to listeners that the conservative candidate for the Supreme Court in Wisconsin fucked horses.
I remember this.
They bragged about it.
I
because
remember this.
He had horses that worked on a farm.
I remember this now.
And the
You're
ads
right.
went, "Brrr," and they had him like, I mean, it sounded like you were listening to a pornography with somebody fucking a horse. And so they say all of that. And here they're acting like Democrats are so above that when that is what they've
always
been doing.
way above the board. Way above board.
There's even a quote here about that. Yeah, you'll get to it in a second. But it goes on to say, in an attempt to step outside those bounds. It says online, talking about Democrats using this strategy. This has a name, this strategy. Dark woke.
Dark woke.
Dark woke.
Dark woke.
Darky woke. Jasmine
Dark woke.
Crockett.
Dark woke.
Republicans have essentially put Democrats in a respectability prison. There's an extreme imbalance in strategy that allows Republicans to say stuff that really grabs voters' attentions while we're stuck saying boring pablum, which is like boring, policy and whatever. I see this as a strategic shift in Democrat messaging. This whole article is based on bullshit.
It's based on bullshit. What do you mean all Democrats ever do is talk about policy? All Democrats ever do is talk about racism, trans issues, transphobia, racism, and more racism. And billionaires. Billionaires are bad.
Right. It's just like they have never been guilty of trying to stay within the bounds of political correctness. They've only been guilty of using identity politics to weaponize it, to accuse their opponents of racism, anti-Semitism, sexism, all of that, while they do everything above and beyond any boundaries they try and hold society to. I mean, there's no illusions here, but this entire article it's like they're doing something they've always done, but we want to create the illusion that this is a shift in course.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's part of this whole bigger theme where they want to get rid of Chuck Schumer, who is just not appealing. He's too much of an old, white, annoying guy.
Old. He smells. He smells like he smells like urine.
You can smell the urine on him through the screen. While you can smell the sassy attitude of Jasmine.
His soup.
He does, dude, and he'll never step down. I think this is actually more of an article directed at creating internal conflict with the Democrats to give that struggle over to the better publicity stunt performers, which are those with the sassy black attitude. Sometimes when she's talking to certain groups, very, very white in others, and the beautifully breasted AOC. Which Nancy Pelosi might have something to say about that.
I would say AOC's got her beat.
You might be right about that, but I'm taking Nancy Pelosi's tits over AOC's. I'm putting my money on Pelosi.
Nah, I don't want to see Pelosi's tits.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'd look just to see. I'd look and see what
Everyone would look and see.
You would look and see, dude, and
Of
you're afraid you might like.
No, I wouldn't.
You're afraid.
Like yeah, I'm afraid.
You want to be dark fucking woke. Nancy Pelosi showing her titties in a Democrat ad. That's dark woke right there, okay? That's something people aren't expecting.
Yeah. Let's have all these, the ladies in Congress do like bras and panties night at the next State of the Union or something.
I'll donate, dude. I will donate
Yeah.
to
Everybody does. Everyone, all of Congress does undies
everybody.
night.
You know, Lindsey Graham is walking into that room with a leather thong and a ball gag in his mouth, like, "Let's do this." He's just
Let's
screaming.
do this, everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So then it explains what dark woke is a little bit more. Dark woke is a meme that lives mostly online, but it has its roots in the have been sown throughout the party for years. In the waning days of the Biden admin, memes about Dark Brandon, often referred to a version of the president that conservatives most feared. Is that really what it was? Was it a
I
version
think that's
that they most
we just
feared?
most feared him.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just everything about this is a lie. Outside the party, the dirtbag left, it says in quotes, the term for a cohort of leftist provocateurs who eschew civility politics, inspired headlines for their unrestrained derision of conservative and liberals alike. And every so often, the political currents would come to a head. And during a meeting at the House Oversight last May, Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat, found herself in a spat with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. And Taylor Greene made a jab about fake eyelashes to the chair, and then Crockett declined to prosecute under the committee's rules of decorum. So to follow those rules, she said, "Mr. Chair, point of order. I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleached blonde, bad-built butch body, then that would be engaging in personalities, correct?" So that's her. So basically, the article goes on to talk about Jasmine Crockett's clapbacks over the
I'm
past
pretty
6
sure
months.
MTG could make Jasmine Crockett tap out pretty damn fast.
Not without being racist.
My money's on MTG. She doesn't she? Isn't she like a CrossFit fanatic?
She's a CrossFit. You know what really it bums me out, because you saw the story about her doing the town hall and they tasered some protesters. Did you see that? It was last
I
week.
heard a little bit about it.
That was at the place I play basketball down the street. I found out about it on Nextdoor. Why are all the cops here? And I didn't even know it was happening. I would have gone and tasered people
Yeah. We should have all been able to go taste
had I known it was happening. To wrap this up, says, is quoting one of these people who they think are good at being provocative. Being able to use this strategy, this dark woke strategy of being raw and unapologetic and unabashed about our beliefs in something our base really wants. And then he referred to a quote in saying this that was actually by Mayor Eric Adams, who is probably going to turn into a Republican soon. But that quote says, and this is the old Democrats as they painted it in the article, which is Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high, which is bullshit. But the new quote is, when they go low, you got to dig oil. You got to dig oil. That's the new Democrat Party slogan.
Oh my God.
Which has got to be a slap in the dick to Michelle Obama.
Is that really their slogan?
That's what it says here. That's what they're trying
When
to
they
convey.
go low, we got to dig oil.
We got to dig oil. Yeah, I don't know if that means anal. I don't know what that
fucking
means.
Stupid shit. Who fucking comes up with this stupid shit? That's really bad.
It's terrible. They're retarded. It's funny too, because this article also talks about how the Democrat communicators, and we've seen them do this, because Trump and Elon Musk swear sometimes and use profanity. This is a communication consultant of the Democrat Party. They've encouraged a profanity among Democrats.
Yeah, especially
because
when it's a controversial issue or something, right?
And the reason is they say it's a shortcut to authenticity. Is it?
Yeah, but when Chuck Schumer swears, it just doesn't sound authentic. It sounds like, oh, this is a guy swearing who doesn't, he might say son of a bitch, cocksucker. Those are the types of swears he says. And they're like, no, you can't say that, Chuck. You can't go that hard.
I want to beat him in the cunt. No, Chuck, that's not. You don't get it, Chuck. You don't get it.
Cunt sucker. No, that's a weird one.
You dirty faggot, cunt sucker.
You can't say that.
And you just start shouting the hard R. It's like, all right, let's where's Amy? Can we get Amy?
Sir, yeah. Just
I would
say
love to see
autistic.
Chuck Schumer do an Amy Schumer set where he's like, the other day I was like, "Where's my car?" and then it fell out of my pussy.
Oh, I love watching Amy's stuff.
Amy Schumer. All right. If you got to get out of here. You know, you said a
I
heart,
do.
heart out
I
of
do.
10. So I'm gonna do one more quick story after. But thank you for
Cool,
joining
man.
and
It was great
hanging out.
seeing. It was fun communicating.
It's fun
with everyone.
communicating. Got a nice audience tonight. Got a great chatter over
great.
here in the chats.
Yeah,
we will
I'm back
talk
on
to you
Thursday.
Thursday. We'll see you soon. I know we have another special guest coming on Thursday.
Sweet.
Might have a Reginald. Don't want to get two people too excited. If we can get Reginald, which it's weird. I've never seen you and Reginald on the same show. Always something happens, but hopefully you'll get to meet him.
Yeah, hopefully he can be on there when I'm on there.
He's going to tell us about his trip to space.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reginald went to space, huh?
Yeah. I'm excited to hear
That's
from him.
amazing.
Yeah. All right.
right,
We'll
man.
see you. We'll see you on Thursday, hopefully.
All right, talk to you later.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
All right. So here is I gotta do Nancy Mace. Now, I mean the story about Nancy Mace, who's the most insufferable person. Nancy Mace is like the example of co-opting an audience by just claiming to be whatever ideology that audience is and mesmerizing them with her form and just saying platitudes that seem to work. I criticize Nancy Mace often because I dislike her strongly. She's a grifter and she's full of shit. Nobody has ever made me defend an indivisible activist, which I despised before, except Nancy Mace, which she made me do the other day. Nancy Mace, you might have. It's very hard to keep up with her insufferable presence on X and Instagram. There's never been an image of Nancy Mace that she's posted that doesn't feature her tits. Never. You can't see anything because her tits are always in the camera, which I'm usually okay with. But in her case, she has made me say a little less tits this time, a little more focus on what you pretend to focus on. There was the image of her sitting in her office with handcuffs and some weird. There's something about her that's just either she's a little off in the head, like she doesn't get it. Like that's what she comes off as somebody who just doesn't understand social interactions. But because she's been probably followed around by guys her whole life, probably had boobs in the 7th grade, and every guy who's ever been around her has probably been like, yes, Nancy, that she had never developed a concept of social awareness or connection. And there's probably nobody around her who tells her how much of a dumb bitch she is all the time, unless she is actually there for the purpose of making conservatives look retarded. Because if that is what she's doing a fantastic job. I would actually say this. If I were an operative, if I were like the head of some intel agency and I said, we need to ruin the messages and reputation of the conservatives and the Republicans in the United States, what shall we do? Well, we should send big-titted Nancy Mace to go say the stupidest things all the time and do everything that conservatives previously objected to progressives doing when it comes to hashtag #MeToo. Nancy Mace got to where she is, in part on the backs of her claim that she was raped when she was younger. I don't have any idea whether or not that was true. I do know that I've looked into the story and that she's provided no actual physical evidence other than a story that she's told, and the story she's told resembles exactly the stories that were told by the hashtag #MeToo movement people that actually prevented the people who actually had evidence of rape and a crime that happened to them from getting attention. Nancy Mace is everything that was wrong about hashtag Me Too transplanted into the Republican Party. She did congressional hearing, and nobody questions her because they're Republicans who support her, and they just believe her. Just believe all women is usually something you think about when you think about progressives. So it's kind of like I think there's probably a lot of people who never even dawned on them that Nancy Mace has made a career off of doing the exact same thing. And this is one of those subjects where it's like, I tell people, the reason atrocity propaganda works is because if someone comes up to you and says, my baby was just burned to a crisp, he's dead, go kill the enemy who killed him. Nobody wants to be, okay, Mary, let me see the body first, because you're an asshole and you get, how dare you question that, which is exactly why atrocity propaganda is effective, because it can be used and nobody will question it for fear of these social repercussions. That doesn't mean that those things don't happen, but it means if it's not questioned in circumstances where it's been used to manipulate people into killing other people, then maybe a few questions should be raised. Nancy Mace's whole political career has been based off of that type of thing, with the subject being, I was raped, trust me and believe me. Yet no evidence provided. And the only evidence she offered recently was her going on the floor of Congress, as I said, where she knew, but most of the public isn't aware. I didn't know it until I looked it up. I did not know this at the time. I was like, why is she doing this here? There's something weird about this. So I looked it up. You speak on the floor of Congress, and what you say, you're immune from prosecution because of the debate and speech clause in the Constitution. So you can accuse somebody of the most awful crimes on the floor of Congress, and you have immunity from being charged with defamation or any other crime that you might commit during your speech. And she went down on the floor of Congress, and she held up a Bible. She brought her own Bible, and she put her hand on it, and she said, I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Why did she do that? Not because that's required, because you're not required to do that when you speak before Congress. It was totally performative, and it was totally for the purpose of making people who only see snippet clips that she shares, and maybe Fox News shares, make them go, oh, she did her oath on the Bible. Maybe she's subject to, lying to Congress. It was to create the illusion that if she lies, she could be subject to the same thing Michael Flynn got put in jail for lying to Congress, when that was not the case at all. It was all a trick. And then she pulls out handcuffs and all this weird shit. And then one of the people she accuses of covering up, what she said was, I uncovered what was a 2-decade-long operation of 4 men, including my ex-boyfriend, who I literally just announced my engagement to like a year ago. Until I discovered that for decades, they have been putting hidden cameras in places, and they have been drugging people, including me, and raping them. And it's all on camera. And I discovered all of this on camera, is what she said. Okay. Give the cameras to the authorities. I told the Attorney General of South Carolina this, who is going to be my opponent in the race for governor of South Carolina, just so happens. And he was unresponsive to it. And he was like, she never told any of us this. This was not reported to us at all. That's not even how it works. And it was a big show. And it worked for the base she was targeting, I'm sure. She got lots of sympathy because every time I commented about, don't you guys have any questions about this weird story? I would get attacked as being a progressive, which I'm not. I'm very obviously not. I despise manipulators. I despise grifters. And I don't care how big her tits are, I can see the grifting behind it. And every time she speaks, those titties lose power over me, okay? They're done. And Forrest Mommy pointed out something that I hadn't even realized before. They appear to be fake. Her titties appear to be no different than the titties on a trans woman who has a dick, okay? So that really makes it easy for me to not worry about that. But I say all that because I want to show you the clip here. And I really just, it was very hard for me to defend an indivisible person who was obviously very annoying. But it was not him. He was fucking annoying, okay? But Nancy Mace was the bully. And let me show you the video that I'm talking about. There's a video that Nancy Mace, she ended up going on Sean Hannity because of this video. And the background of this is Nancy Mace actually posted a couple days before this video. She said, I'm recording everyone who comes up to me, and I'm putting you on notice, and I will record you all for attacking me. She frames everything in the context of her being attacked. Even though many of these people she interacts with, she has far, far more power than, and she's surrounded by people who are probably big and strong. Now you see the guy on screen here. So is this the answer to get Brad a huge fake crack? Look, I'm not ready to do that. Control Alt Dig, but there's no doubt the doors it would open if I did have a big huge rack. There's no doubt how far that can take a person, because you take that away from Nancy Mace. Seriously, Nancy Mace has no breast. What's she doing? Because her personality and intelligence is not going to get her here. And that's not like women. So just put a pair of fake tits on somebody doesn't make them attractive, right? To some people, they're mesmerized by that. But it's the whole package. You know, I breast on women of all different shapes and sizes when it comes from the type of woman it is, and the complete package, personality, just who they are, the way, you know, it's not something that you need unless you're Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace is a fucking gas station clerk because she's a lying, manipulating bitch who has ruined the lives of more men than Britney Spears. Nancy Mace couldn't rock a sexy small rack. There's many women that can. She cannot. Add a squeaky toy inside there. Then all you just gave me a hilarious image, Groby. There's a squeaky toy inside her tits, and there's like little dogs just like, whatever. I just can't stand this bitch. She's awful. Like, it's almost like Nancy Mace keeps this up, and I'm gonna be anti-tit. I'm gonna be like, I don't even like tits anymore because of Nancy Mace. Groby, by the way, I bought a wig. I bought a barrister's gray wig, which I will don soon on the show. Let's watch Nancy Mace, and this is very clearly an indivisible activist, because this is what they're instructed to do. Here's the scene.
I do them every year. You want to keep going?
Let me get it.
I do them every year. You want to keep going? Do you want to keep going and keep harassing me? You could have gone to a dozen town halls.
I want to stop it here. They're in like a beauty shop, and the guy that she's filming looks to be maybe 5-6 feet away from her. He's not close to her. And I think it's very funny that right behind him, they're in the lotion section. This is a fight going on in the lotion section of this beauty shop.
I do them every year. You want to keep going? Do Do you want to keep going and keep harassing me? You could have gone to a dozen town halls last year.
I asked if you're doing any more this year. It was one simple question.
Yeah.
Are you doing a
I've already done one. I'll do plenty
Any
more.
more this year? It was a simple question.
You're always invited.
Okay, sweet. Well, look
And
out
by
for
the
an
way,
actual invitation.
I voted for gay marriage twice.
What does that have to do
So
with me?
I'm just
That's actually very funny. She just assumed. I mean, he's obviously gay, but to bring that up, to say that, you can see how offended he is. She's trying to offend him, and I have to admit that's funny the way she did it. But that doesn't. Nevertheless, to me, the provocateur is clear, especially when she said, "I'm looking to get you on film." Nancy Mace seeks these situations out.
Simple question.
yeah.
Are you doing a
I've already done one. I'll do
Are
plenty
you doing any more
more.
this year? It was a simple question.
You're always invited.
Okay, sweet. Well, look
And
out
by
for
the
an
way,
actual invitation.
I voted for gay marriage twice.
What does that have to do
So
with me?
I'm just saying.
That's her
it has
constituent,
everything to
by
do
the
with
way.
Do you
you.
think everything about me has to do with gay
I
marriage?
do,
That's
absolutely.
your first stance when you
Yep.
speak with me?
Absolutely.
I do, absolutely. This is where Nancy Mace always gets it wrong. I feel like she thinks that being harsh towards gay people, like she's like making fun of gay people, is something that would make her base, get excited. But what she's doing here, that's not. You can have opinions about whether or not you disagree with gay marriage and whatnot, and you can make fun. Making fun of a gay person for being gay has literally never worked ever when it comes to live performances. Now, some corners of social media you can, but like her, who plays a victim all the time, and that's what she's clearly implying here. Is like, I absolutely think everything you care about is gay marriage, you faggot. I mean, that's kind of what is conveyed there. And that's not how you make fun of gay people. You make fun of them for being queens. You make fun of them for the same way they make fun of themselves. Just like they make fun of straight people the same way, like the way we make fun of you. She doesn't understand the way, and I'm not saying anything should be forbidden. I don't give a shit what people say. I'm just saying the way things are perceived, and the way that she is handling this, it comes off as she's turning somebody who was an annoying activist, who I'm sure said some annoying shit about a town hall to start the conversation, into the one that you're like, oh man, this poor guy. This was such an easy situation for her to win if she wanted to, but she can't help herself because she doesn't understand. She has this idea. She's trying to be Trump, okay? That is what a lot of these politicians are doing. They have seen the success that Trump has had by being brass, by saying, things that piss off the left. But do you think that Donald Trump would ever encounter a gay person and out of nowhere with somebody who he thinks is gay and say, I'm pro-gay marriage? I mean, that's all you care about. It's definitely, he wouldn't do. Trump has put gay people in higher positions of power than any other previous president. But she's trying to mimic that, like we talked about a moment ago, the dark woke. This is the other side of that. She just isn't good at it, and she comes off as a cunt. Yes, needless browbeating make her appear very small. It's what she thinks works. Like, I don't get it. I just don't. Somebody who makes herself out to be the Davy Crockett of the ladies' restroom on Capitol Hill, who every time she makes a video about keeping the trans women out of that restroom, which probably zero have ever gone in, like literally zero, but she can't make a video about it without her cleavage taking up the majority of the frame. So I'm going to show you another one she did that just a moment ago. Somebody who does that it's like their perception of reality has been broken. She just seems too old. I mean, she's in her mid-40s. I'm not saying she's like old, but when it comes to somebody who has been so brainwashed that they view the world through a Instagram lens filter, and they see posing, everything has to be about, and I guess that is probably how she's got things she's learned throughout her life, but the lack of awareness, it's just baffling to me. But I say that, nevertheless, she still won office. She's still in office. Maybe, I don't know why she's going to run for governor instead of trying to stay in Congress. Probably because she has been told she won't win in Congress. And by targeting a different, so you run for governor, you're targeting in-state, really. It's not as national. I mean, you're targeting in-state anyway. That's a retarded thing for me to say. But it feels like it's a different audience, and you can repurpose and rebrand. She's probably going to run for governor because she can't win again. But I don't know who is on her team, but my guess is whoever her advisors are, she probably never listens to. I'll shut up and let this finish.
Do you think everything about me has to do with gay marriage?
I do,
That's
absolutely.
your first stance when you
Yep.
speak with me?
Absolutely.
There's no other humane
If you want to get in my
conversation you
face
can
about
have
town
me?
halls, you should have shown up
There's
to
no
one
other
last
humane
year.
thing you can talk about me just saying, oh, I support gay marriage.
Yeah,
That's the
because you're
only thing
getting
you
in
have
my
to
face
say.
about a town hall. You
Oh, I
could have
just
gone
asked you one
last year.
simple question from right
Would you
over
like
here
me?
is if you have any plans to have more town halls this year.
I have town
That was
halls
one
every year.
question.
I have over a dozen
Okay.
every year.
Great. That was my entire question. You didn't have to go
Yeah.
into the spiel about
You could
everything
have
else
you
wanted
could
to.
have come to any of them last year.
Okay. And I'm
I had
asking
over
about
a
this year, not
dozen.
2024. But
Where
we're
were you the
new
year before?
So who do you guys think is continuing this? Who's being more aggressive here?
Before that, or the year before that.
It was a simple
Oh,
question. I
because
asked
you know
if
what?
have
Because you
anywhere that
people
you're
on the
going to
left
this
are
year or not.
crazy.
So I'm
You're
on the left.
absolutely fucking crazy.
I'm absolutely fucking
You
crazy.
Who's escalating?
And get out of my face.
All right, this is where it's just like, that dumb bitch. Get out of my face. You see how far away he is from her. He's not even close to her. Get out of my face? That to me is like, does she actually see it that way? There are some people like that, who if you just say words to them from a distance, they'll be like, ow, you hit me. I mean, that's what this comes off as to me. Ow, rape. I mean, the guy's not even close to her. He is not being threatening. She's the aggressive one. And she says, get out of my face. He's not holding a camera up. He's annoying, yes. He's brainwashed, yes. He's not the one continuing this thing on and escalating it. She is. And look at the bottom. She has her name. They put her name on the bottom of it. Nancy Mason, pink and white. She is what an egotistical sociopath.
So I'm
You're
on the left.
absolutely fucking crazy.
I'm absolutely fucking
You are.
crazy.
And get out of my face.
You're insane.
Goodbye.
Okay, so he's walking away at this point. Get out of my face. The guy's walking away. He's walking to the other side of the aisle. This is great.
You're insane.
Fuck you.
You're gonna fuck me. You're
Yep,
gonna be voted
bye.
out so fast this year. I
I'm
can't
not.
wait for you to fucking
I'm
go
not.
into
I
the
won by
dirt.
so much.
You're a disgrace to this state. That's what you are. You're a disgrace.
He's on the other side of the aisle right now, by the way. There's literally the aisle where all the items are in between him and her. Not even close to each other.
I asked you a simple question, and you just to go on this tirade and tell me "fuck you."
Yeah, fuck you.
Disgusting.
Get out of my face.
Fuck you. How about
Get out of my
that?
face.
You're nasty
Try it again.
bitch.
What's your
You're a
name?
nasty bitch.
What's your name?
Get out of my face. What's your name? Try it again. What's your name? You can only see his head barely popping up from above the other side of the aisle. She's saying, get out of my face. What's your name? The guy is 15 feet, maybe 20 feet away from her, and there's an entire aisle in between them. And she says, get out of my face. What's your name? That's a threat coming from a government official. If a government official says, try that again, what's your name? Tell me your name. How would you guys react to that? If a regular person said that, you would probably take it as a threat. If a government official said that, they're saying that because they know that the power of the government that they have behind them is intimidating and threatening to the person they say it to. Who's the bully here? It's not the annoying gay guy who's not even close to in her face.
You're a
Name.
nasty bitch. That's
What's
my
your name?
You say fuck me?
Yep, I
That's
sure
the
did.
First thing you're gonna say to me is fuck me for
Absolutely.
asking you a question?
Get the fuck out of my face.
Fuck you.
Now.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Get out of my face again.
You couldn't take me on,
So he's not even in the frame. He's walked off and she's still yelling at him.
baby. Stay the fuck away from me.
Stay the fuck away from me. He's not even in the frame anymore. That's what she does. This is what I'm talking about with a hashtag Me Too shit. Where, and to qualify it again, people, if they say something happened to them, it should be taken seriously and it should be analyzed because things actually do happen to people that are bad. Dudes do get in chicks' faces. Dudes do rape chicks and commit awful crimes against them. But it's people like Nancy Mace and the hashtag Me Too movement that has prevented those people who are actually victims of awful people from being taken seriously. Because bitches like this have made a career off of setting themselves up, Nancy Mace, as the victim. Like in this case, she took this video where she said before she even filmed it, you guys are on notice, I'm getting these videos, I'm going to catch you, and I'm going to stand up to you guys. You guys are coming after. That's the whole thing. You guys wanted a strong woman. You just didn't think she'd be conservative. I will fight you. Hold the line. I don't even follow her. And that shit probably because I watch these videos. It shows up all the time. And she takes the video here. She creates this narrative that she's a victim, that this guy's in her face. And she gets herself on Sean Hannity's show. And he validates this bullshit. Here, where is it? Let's see. Here's her on Sean Hannity.
Well, he started up on me prior to this, and I fumbled. I tried to get my phone out.
She says that, and I believe that. I believe that he asked her about town halls. You can see the way the guy is talking. To believe she was under threat, this guy would have had to have been like, you could have any town halls, you fucking dumb bitch. I'm going to fucking... And then all of a sudden she turns the camera on and he just is able to turn it into this like, I'm this gay guy who's just, I'm asking... That's not... This is what she doesn't understand. In situations like this where somebody's coming at you and suddenly a camera gets on, you can tell. You can tell the emotional switch if you have social awareness. This guy probably very annoyingly asked her that. And I'm guessing, because she's talked about this, that she walks around in these public places and she looks for people who notice her. And she probably, kind of with her eyes and her body language, invites the criticism so she can create these moments. Based on her past of doing this type of thing is what leads me to this conclusion. Is it possible somebody could come after her? Of course it is. Is it this guy? No, this is a guy, this is a gay activist who doesn't have a boyfriend, who's sad, who has been brainwashed by Indivisible, who read an email, who said, we need to ask our congresspeople and our constituents if they're going to hold a town hall. And he saw the opportunity to, and he did that. This guy's never been in a physical confrontation in his life. This is the weakest, most non-threatening, flaming homosexual activist that anybody's ever seen. And Nancy Mace is trying to make it sound like he is, left-wing Andrew Tate.
Out as quick as I could, but I had a bag and I tried to pull it out fast and start recording as much as I could. I've decided that I'm going to start recording these people in public. I probably don't have enough iPhone space on my phone, but I deal with this stuff day in and day.
So she said that the day before this happened. She announced on X, I'm going to start recording these people in public. And then here you go. She just so happens to have this interaction.
Out. This was the third incident I had last week alone. And the week before that, there was a man in Pennsylvania who was arrested from Butler, Pennsylvania, that threatened the president.
Even though she throws in Butler, Pennsylvania to have that association with the Trump And that story.
President Trump, I was the only member of Congress. He threatened to put a bullet in my skull. Most of this stems from my position about protecting women and girls in private spaces. And inherently, as a woman, when a man like this comes up to me,
A gay flaming homosexual man. You notice how she said that when a man like this. She says that like it was a threatening man approaching her in a dark corner, big burly Viking who's just ready to start, that's all he knows is plunder and rape, is the way she presents that. But in reality, she's talking about a guy who vomits at the thought of vagina.
and is aggressive in public or private,
He wasn't
protecting
aggressive.
women and girls in private spaces. And inherently, as a woman, when a man like this comes up to me and is aggressive in public or private, inherently, I'm going to fight back. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to be a strong woman because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Men like this, it's not okay. This kind of aggression is going to get someone hurt
It was not aggression.
or worse, and it's not something I condone.
me
I'll
ask
stand
you
up and
this.
fight for every woman and girl everywhere.
God. It's just insufferable, and shame on Sean Hannity. He doesn't care for having her on. To that is not a legitimate thing. And what pisses me off about it isn't just the lies and the grifting. It's the disservice it does to people who are actually victims of aggressive dudes who think they can get away with hurting a chick, which was definitely not this gay guy. Can you imagine being a woman who has actually been a victim to like a fucking aggressive dude who's sexually like just I remember the Washington Post video they posted to show all the hashtag Me Too stuff. It was like a 2-minute montage of quick stories, and they one little story after the other, and one of them was like it was a girl who described very briefly a brutal attack that she suffered in a dark alleyway, and the blood and what happened, and it was it seemed authentic to me, and it was like, wow, like that's one that's like I would want to question if I were investigators. And then right after that little brief snippet, the next one was I was in a crowded bar, and a man walked by, and he touched my butt as he squeezed by. So really, these are the same, according to this video on Washington Post at the time, which they've taken down by now. Brutal rape in a dark alleyway, and somebody squeezing by in a crowded bar who bumps the back of their hand up against your butt. Those are the same. Nancy Mace is the hashtag Me Too, or hashtag, what did you say? Hashtag me next, said JC, of the Republican Party. But because she is a Republican, the people who question the claims of hashtag Me Too, who support her, aren't questioning. Or maybe they are, actually. Maybe that gay guy was right. Maybe nobody will actually vote for Nancy Mace. And they shouldn't vote for her. She's awful. So here's another Nancy Mace thing. This is like a day later. This is her headed for USC to the Turning Point. And so this video is just another example of what she does. You can see the framing of the video right here. What's the first thing you look at? Is it her caked on makeup, or is it her perfectly in frame tits? Which one is it? Does this video, just looking at it before we play it, does it need her tits? Because I'll tell you, the video is about the girl in the back seat. It's not about Nancy Mace. Yet what you see is her titties. Just like an Instagram video, look at my new book. I can't see them over your big tits.
We are headed to University of South Carolina. We are doing Turning Point USA tonight. That's Sydney in the back. Just got promoted to comms director today. Youngest.
So you know what a person who's like a real person and not a psychopath would be doing? They would have the camera on them. They'd say, we're headed to Turning Point USA. Like, this is my phone. We're headed to Turning Point USA here. We're going, this is Sydney. And they just naturally, you guys have probably done this. They'd like switch hands and point the phone. That's Sydney back there. Say hi, Sydney. Say hi. We're headed back. Sydney's the new comms director, and it'd be going back and forth. But this is very like pre-planned. Probably number of takes were done.
comms director on the Hill, and she was just saying, your first day, when you came to work for me last year, your first day of work, what was it?
George Stephanopoulos.
Oh, it was George Stephanopoulos was her first day when she ever worked for me for the very first time. And then today, her first day as comms director is Daisy Duke's day. Yeah, that guy.
And you notice where they put, that's not my subtitles. Those are her subtitles. So the subtitles, to read the subtitles, you have to look at her cleavage. The subtitles are in her cleavage. Put the just in case they're not looking, just put the subtitles in there.
It's not the first time I've ever used language with people before, and it's certainly
So
won't be that
now
guy.
the video about her new comms director, she's not even in the frame anymore. She has moved the camera over very deliberately to get that other bitch out of the frame. And I think that's probably what she's thinking in that situation there.
It's not the first time I've ever used language with people before, and it certainly won't be the last. You don't have the right to.
Look at her get up here. Is this the type of makeup, ladies, that you put on before a long road trip? We're going on an 8-hour long road trip. I let me put on all my makeup and get my hair as perfect as I can. And look at how she's leaning against the side of the car. That's not natural at all. I'm pointing out the minutia of this because I've done a lot of work on camera in my life through comedy and acting. So the way she's sitting there, you can see the back of the seat over there. She has her whole body pressed up against the side of the door. Like nobody rides in a car in the passenger seat like this. Nobody does that. She determined that was going to be the best angle. We all have best angles. And so she messed around and she determined that pressed up against the back like this was going to get this side. And so that's why she's sitting uncomfortably, probably doing dozens of takes of this because she is a narcissistic bitch.
Harass me. It's not ever going to with people before, and it certainly won't be the last. You don't have the right to harass me. It's not ever going to be okay. And if you want to get in my face, expect it right back, and I will record you, and I will make you famous.
And that is what she promised to do. I spend so much time on Nancy Mace because, to me, she's not actually a Republican. She was not actually a Trump supporter until it was politically useful for her to be. As I mentioned early in the show, she believed she used to call January 6th an insurrection until she pretended, until she decided she was only going to win and she acted like Trump endorsed her, even though Trump endorsed her opponent. And she went outside Trump Towers and she filmed herself out there in ads, making it seem as though Trump endorsed her so convincingly to the point that Trump had to put a post out himself during her last campaign that said, "Look at the lying Nancy Mace out here in front of Trump Towers pretending I endorsed her. I endorsed her opponent." She is a lying grifter who sees her opportunity to rise in the Republican Party. What up, TT? And this is just, to me, the most obvious example of probably what most politicians are. She's just not good at masking it because she relies on her figure and the weakness of the men she attempts to appeal to. Look, first time I saw Nancy Mace, there's a comment earlier. She does have some big honkers. She does. As a guy, you know, if you're heterosexual, honkers like that are going to be like, whoa. But men, we got to be strong enough to not be controlled by those because, as we know, any transsexual can slap a pair of honkers on them. You don't want to get funky Cole Medina'd. And Nancy Mace relies on that. There's others in politics who do the same thing, but they're just a lot better at masking it. They're a lot better at appearing not to be sociopaths. And they're all attempting to win the dark, woke idea that we talked about earlier. Who is the best at getting the most attention with the most outrageous things they can show or do, and then use that outrageousness to mobilize people behind them and support? Not of what they can do, what they can accomplish or have accomplished practically in terms that actually benefit people who they represent on a personal, tangible level, but simply by being the person who does the thing that creates the most shock value in the media and dunks on the opposing side the most. That is politics. That's the PR stunt world we live in. And we have for quite some time now. It's just gotten more in our face because of this. But her featuring herself like an Instagram model is the same as any other tactic that the media or politicians use to dazzle us with the show. So to short circuit our ability to think about the content. Because there ain't no content in this dumb bitch right here. I can't stand her. I wish her well. I don't want anything bad to happen to her. I wish everybody well. I just wish for people who are under her spell to recognize people like her, people like these other politicians, they're not there to serve the best interest of those who voted for them. Sure, if it happens by side effect, they'll act like it was the main purpose. But they want people trusting these influencers. You know, and I consider her and all politicians to be influencers in modern society. They want them to trust those influencers instead of actually analyzing things, content, for themselves and asking questions, because it's easier that way. It takes less time. I get it. It does. But the only thing government has proven consistently throughout its history of existence is that it will lie to the subjects that it governs. That is the one thing we can guarantee. Are there truths told within those lies? Of course there are. Sometimes the truth is used to convey a lie. Does that mean everybody who's ever been in government is awful or evil? No, it doesn't. It does not. It just means the pattern predominantly has been that of deception. So therefore, deception should be assumed, and they should have to prove that they are not engaging in that behavior. That should be their burden to win us over. It should not be us blindly accepting the institutes that have done nothing but consistently lie, which seems to be obviously what they would convey to us because they don't want to be questioned. I'm rambling. I ramble much, as I do. Oh, here's another Nancy Mace. It never ends. Don't get me wrong. I'm paying attention to her, but I'm paying attention to her because you're seeing this pattern. There was even a list of like the top 10 obnoxious, I don't know how they put it, but attention-seeking members of Congress, and Nancy Mace wasn't even in it. I was a little blown away, to be honest with you. Jasmine Crockett was. Jasmine Crockett is a manipulative bitch as well. I don't have to cover her as much because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that goes without saying, but maybe I should because she does the same shit. I honestly don't know who I like less, Crockett or Mace. I think Jasmine Crockett is a lot better at manipulating using these tactics. That's why I think they might have her be a potential candidate for 2028 because she's good at it. Sure, she doesn't talk about policy, and she code switches very obviously, but that's okay because they're not trying to win us over. They don't need to win us. They're actually okay pissing us off and provoking us into attacking them. She's very good at communicating to audiences that she has been sent to bamboozle. Nancy Mace is not. Nancy Mace is like a short-circuiting robot with tits, really. Have you seen the early Crockett videos from before Ebonics? I have, Nate. I've seen her where she speaks like the whitest girl you've ever seen. If that's what you're referring. I don't know if I've seen ones that are like when she's younger, but I've definitely seen ones where she's speaking to a different crowd. If you watch Stacey Abrams, every crowd she speaks to, she's got a little bit of a different tone. And that's what they do in politics. They train them to speak in the voice of the crowd they're addressing in the moment. That's why Stacey Abrams, when she's talking to CNN, sounds like the little white girl down the street. And when she's talking to a bunch of activists, sounds like the female Martin Luther King. It's about who's in front of you for these organizers. It's acting. It's all acting. Except it's under the illusion of being fiction, or nonfiction, excuse me, of being real. Like, honestly, I was disappointed in Stacey Abrams' performance in Star Trek as President of Earth was so pathetic. I thought she'd be a better actress. She went to school, a high school that taught drama and taught you how to be a politician. And that's the performance we get from Stacey Abrams, 7'5", 590 pounds. It was such a weak performance. She should have just played the planet instead of the president of it. Would have done better. Why isn't this showing? Where the freak is? Oh, there it is. Vote for them. Yeah, right. I don't vote for anybody at the federal level. You don't vote you're like, I don't vote at the federal level because nobody is. My view is they have to do the work to win my trust. They have to give me a reason to trust them instead of trying to propagandize me into voting emotionally. And all I ever see is the attempts to propagandize into voting emotionally. That's not to say that I don't see candidates that I like I thought Trump was hilarious. I prefer Trump over Kamala as a person, definitely. I didn't vote for him, didn't vote for either one of them. Because the attempt wasn't to stimulate my thought and to make me feel comfortable asking questions and getting them answered. The attempt was to get me to comply. That's how it works. And as long as that's how it works, I'm not going to vote in a federal election. Local elections are different. There's power there. But then you tell people that about federal elections. They go, oh, well, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to say anything. Really? Your Get Out the Vote campaign is based entirely on do not think, do not get informed. Just get out the vote. That's the most important thing. That's literally the most illogical thing anybody's ever heard. Don't worry about getting informed. Just vote. That is what's most important. It's retarded. It's actually retarded if you think about it logically. But in the heat of the moment, because the emotions are charged, that is what people think the logical thing is. Despite the fact that Steve was talking about this on AM Wake Up this morning. I was a guest on the show, the great show. That show's a great show. AM Wake Up, Slow News Day. If you haven't seen, check them out. They're awesome. Check them out. About how the majority are people who don't vote and people who identify as independent. Completely dwarf those who identify as left or right. And yet every election cycle, people are convinced that if they don't choose one or the other, then they are siding with evil. And therefore, they must vote for something that they don't necessarily fully trust yet. And if they don't have a say. It's the oldest propaganda tactic in history. Literally, it's written in propaganda literature that's over 150 years old. This tactic. You want to get people to comply and mark their X down. This is what you do. Is you attack the people who question the way it works. they share the same dentist. You're talking about Stacey Abrams and Jasmine Crockett? Oh, Michael Strahan. I still think Stacey Abrams is Michael Strahan, says Nate. I can't prove you wrong, Nate. Never seen them in the same room. They both are fantastic linebackers. Ed Groby, they do share the same dentist. The human mind doesn't completely mature until 25. Exactly. And that's, Michael, what you're saying there is exactly why they keep trying to lower the voting age. Let's lower it to 14, to 13. It's because of that. I think it should be 30, personally. I don't think it should be get out the vote. I think it should be get out and get informed. I think it's responsible to not vote in an election, whether it's a federal one or a local one, if you've done no research to understand the candidates, what they're for and who they are. Like, in what other context of life would you just go blindly, I endorse this person who I don't know one single thing about because they have the same color on as me? This person could be a pedophile for all you know, which has actually been happened before. Dennis Hastert, who was, 2 heartbeats away from the presidency years ago. Pedophile. Went to prison. A lot of people voted for that guy because they didn't know anything about him, because they thought they had to stop the other side. The responsible thing to do is to know who you're supporting, to know what they stand for, so that you have that's the conscious vote. Vote your conscience is knowing and look, I don't know every single candidate that runs for every local office. That's why I don't vote for the ones I don't know shit about. Last thing you want to do is, I vote for a Republican, Jeffrey Nimcombutt, and then 3 weeks later, Jeffrey Nimcombutt was found jerking off inside of a Krispy Kreme next to Shaquille O'Neal. Like, what? Like, it's like, I voted for that guy. I can't believe I voted for the guy who jerks off in Krispy Kreme. How could I have known? Well, you could have done some research, because there was probably some telltale signs, but they don't want you doing that. They want you voting for people blindly who jerk off in Krispy Kremes next to Shaquille O'Neal, because that is exercising your civic duty. That's the logic. And that's how we end up with Nancy Mace. Let's go back to landowners being the only one who could vote. Okay, that's not a bad idea. Not at all. That's racist, they would say. No, it's not. There's a lot of people own land these days. Kids shouldn't be dying for politics. No, they should not. They should not. That's another subject of conversation that is, there's actually different angles to that. Raise the age, the military enrollment too. Yeah. Yes, I didn't see this comment previously, but I agree with that. They get people in there when they're at a young age, when it's easier to compel them to kill for certain things they've been told. I mean, they lay it out. Read Propaganda Techniques in World War. I mean, it talks about stirring that hate up in young men, instilling in them the willingness to murder other individuals by making them see those other individuals as rodents, as a threat, as not human, which involves a lot of atrocity stories. Not saying atrocities don't happen, but that's the model they use. And then you have the idea of people hiding behind children in war, which of course they do. But also, in war, all sides of a war accuse the other side of murdering the children and raping the children. So they could get people to go fight and die in a war. based on things that history has proven quite often has not been true. I'm not saying it never is. There's a book called Falsehoods in Wartime, if you want to read something that's a very interesting book about this. It was written in like 1930 or something. And it's about, it goes through all of the lies that each country involved in World War I, I think. Yeah, I think it was World War I. The atrocity story lies that each country told to win approval of the war and compel their soldiers to kill. And a lot of the stories are very similar to what we see nowadays. And I get people who are saying it's like kill or be killed. Is it? I mean, you have people who are, I hate the Israel-Gaza, Israel-Hamas. I hate that story. There's wars going on all around the world that don't get the focus. This one gets the focus. We know Israel's a major subject. That doesn't mean if you criticize Israel, that doesn't mean you're not a Christian. It doesn't mean that you hate Jews. That's not what it means. They want people thinking binary like that. It doesn't mean you support Hitler. You can question Bibi Netanyahu. You can question the actions of that military. And you can still be a Christian. And questioning the actions of Israel also doesn't mean you're endorsing Hamas. That's not what that means. It's this idea. It'd be like, they frame it where everybody in Palestine is Hamas terrorists, and the babies are going to grow up to be Hamas terrorists. I have friends of mine who are some of the best people, and they say, well, they're all going to grow up and be terrorists. I don't know that you know that. I don't know that is an inevitable outcome. But it's easier to presume that's an inevitable outcome to take the side that you feel compelled to take. We don't like having that uncertainty in our brains. It's for everything. I get it. But it's just amazing the way they can make like people kind of justify things that in any other context they would condemn with all of their vigor. Using the divide and conquer and religion to exploit the religion. You can be a Christian and question Israel. Absolutely. That's part of the propaganda, is making people think they can't, in my opinion. Young men are easy to program. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think humans were easy. We get better at noticing it and questioning it as we get older. But we are not logical beings. We are emotional. We convince ourselves that we are ruled by logic like Spock in Star Trek, but we're not. Our emotions dominate us. It takes everything in our power to use the resources of our logical brain to fight the instinctual emotional instincts. Not the ones we're born with, those plus the ones that have been ingrained in us, the way we've been programmed to react. But I do believe society has gotten more logical. And I think that's a good thing. I say all this, I don't mean to sound dark. I'm very hopeful and optimistic. I get passionate because I don't like the manipulation that is so widespread and more abrasive. And I feel like it's my job to scream about it sometimes. At least that's what I've made it to be. Christianity has been infiltrated, of course. And I think that's going to be the case with any major religion. Anything with any bit of influence is either going to be the target of co-option, or there's going to be some infiltrators who are trying to affect it. I mean, I've infiltrated indivisible activist groups, not because I'm trying to manipulate them in a certain way to go do something, simply because I'm trying to have fun and get them to talk to me without yelling at me. You walk up to an indivisible protest and they don't think that you're one of them, they will just scream at you, because I've tried that also. But like, that's how communists, and I say communists, but any group of ideological group or religious group or whatever, they all use similar tactics. And it's all based on convincing people to fight for something they don't actually understand or haven't thought about, really. Not that they don't understand it, but the enemy of propaganda is thought and questions. That's why every time a war approaches, they suppress thought and questions and they criminalize it. I'm trying to infiltrate Nancy. Hey, sweet cheeks. I never said I wouldn't, okay? I might criticize her, but never said I wouldn't for sure. Nancy and Jocelyn, sweet cheeks. I would love to see Jocelyn meet Nancy. I didn't even play this video yet. This could be Jocelyn right here. Let's see.
Does your husband call you babe? Okay, so even better.
I don't care.
Okay, so I would like for you to apologize, but he is derogatory and second of all.
Is tranny derogatory to you?
Well, now.
Yeah.
The deep voice.
Tranny. Yeah, tranny. If that's derogatory, then I'm good.
Okay, so here we have, this is interesting. So this is probably an indivisible activist who also has a camera. The camera that we're watching, I think, is probably Mace's staffer. But this girl looks over to get another person who's filming. What Nancy is doing, look, the strategy, I'm not saying her strategy politically is off. I'm just saying she's not, she is too self-involved. She's too narcissistic to understand people other than her sexuality. But this is the bird dogging that Indivisible teaches our activists to do. The most glaring example that I saw in a training is, and I've told you guys this a bunch, but it's, we want to see during Netroots Nation activist training for progressives, they told them, we want to see people getting pulled out of wheelchairs by police on the front of every newspaper, the New York Times, the Boston Globe, across the nation, which goes back to an Edward Bernays principle that news doesn't happen. News is created through publicity stunts. There's an entire book called Crystallizing Public Opinion, written by Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda, Freud's nephew. Bernays himself is the uncle of one of the co-founders of Netflix, ironically enough. But in that book, the major focus is how to create the news. And this is a pretty obvious example of that. But you bring a bunch of people to a protest in wheelchairs, you put them in a place they're not legally allowed to be, which that's not what this is. They're legally allowed to be there. But you put them in front of your congressperson's door where the congressperson can't leave because they're blocking it. And then they refuse to leave until the police come drag them out. And that's when you have the cameras ready. And that's when you send those images and videos to all of the friendly media. We're seeing both individuals here try and do the same thing there. So I can't fault Nace for using the same tactics. That's the world we live in. Really might have been Jocelyn. Maybe it was Jocelyn. I haven't talked to Jocelyn. Maybe that was her. NPD versus NPD. Yeah, I don't like... I know we're kind of a different bird, those of us listen to this show and kind of in the alternative conspiracy theorist world. At least that's how we're classified. I know we don't necessarily see things the way that the right and left divide, and it's like they see them as rivals and they want to hate them. So I guess it's probably harder for me to see how anybody could not see both of these individuals as repulsive. I'm repulsed by both of them. It's like a play, isn't it? It's like a bad stage play, a community theater, and they have cameras filming it. It's like your character is you have to go up for this scene and try and get Nancy Mace to say something derogatory about trans. That's your goal. That's what we're trying to get. You go do that. Nancy Mace is like, her advisors, your goal is to go in and expose one of these radical leftists as trying to get in your face and hurt you. Action. It's bad community theater. So insufferable on both sides. So, I mean, it makes me like, I don't know. I want to like talk to Nancy Mace's biggest supporters. I just don't. I don't see what the argument for her is. If you're a Republican, I mean, don't you want somebody who can do something? Not just policy-wise, do something for what you want, but also who's good at this. Because that's what politicians of the here and now have to be. They have to be able to communicate with their constituents in a way that's not just sexual, look at my tits, that understands them. And hopefully, if you get one in there who's not controlled, tries to accomplish things like a Ron Paul. But to do that, we live in a world where they have to be good at this shit too. They have to be good at the media. They won't be able to get any attention to their shit or mass support around it to get stuff passed unless they can play that media game a little bit. That doesn't mean they have to lie all the time. They just have to be able to be performative about what their constituents care about. These people here aren't trying to be performative about what anybody other than them cares about. The one on the left wants to become a politician because that's how politicians are selected on the left, by the ones who are the best at first being activists and then being organizers who are able to mobilize masses of people to take action that is against their own best interest. I mean, think about that. That's like the mark of a truly good Stacey Abrams, Barack Obama type organizer. How many people can you get up off the couch and go fight for something that they don't even realize is against their own best interest? If you can do that well, you get rise to the next level. What also gets people rise to the next level and gets a big following are those who can actually do things and can mobilize people around something that is in their best interest. The unfortunate part about politics is that we have too many on that first side than we do on the other side. But we also have enough people who've opened their eyes over the past 10 years, who are seeing through this bullshit. And the more we talk about it till we're blue in the face, I think the better. You know, I get criticized by people who think I'm a progressive, as I said, because I criticize Nancy Mace. And I'm okay with that. Because I don't think it's good to always fall in line based on the color of the red or blue. I think if that's always the place, the way you're falling, like if I were supporting Nancy, if I were going, yeah, get that faggot, Nancy, crush him with your titties, Nancy, kill that faggot, Nancy, he's attacking you, kill him, then I would have to come to the realization that I'm really fucking brainwashed to be supporting that. Based on the color of her boobs. Master of puppets. Yeah, dude, totally. All right, I'll do the Larry David shit. You guys probably heard about that. Well, I'll go through some of that on Thursday with our special guest, perhaps. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Sorry, I missed some of the comments here. It's getting all worked up. But I appreciate our guests we had today. And thank you, Groby. And I'm going to pull out that barrister's wig sometime soon for you. That was a great idea you had. I'll have to show it to you. We'll do it soon. Propagandafight.com is the website. Subscribe to the Propaganda Report podcast on your podcast app of choice. And you can find me at Freedom Max Radio on X, and link in bio for all the ways you can follow on YouTube.com/Brad Binkley, Rumble.com/The Prop Report, and all the ways you can support the show. One of those ways being you can share it with friends who you think might enjoy it. You can leave a 5-star review and a comment wherever you listen. That warms my heart. And if you're listening on the podcast app, you can just let the ads play through, because we don't get anything if the ads are skipped. And the number of ads that are in the shows on the audio, it's not even as close to as many ads almost every other show has. I try to minimize them because I don't like ads either. But, got to support the show. Other ways, our Patreon, our locals, our one-time donations at the PayPal link you see on the screen there. Love you guys. Appreciate the support. We will see you guys on Thursday. Or I'll probably do a show tomorrow, actually. But see you guys with Ian and our guest on Thursday. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day.